Before we talk about hurricane season as a whole, is there anything about Hurricane Lee specifically you want to touch on? Anything else that's stunning or surprising you?
No, I think the rapid intensification, just how strong it is, and how aggressive the National Hurricane Center forecasters have been in this forecasting this aggressive intensification. That's just something that speaks to, on the one hand, the fact that our forecasting capability is continuing to improve, but on the other hand, they're gaining, unfortunately, too much experience with these rapidly intensifying hurricanes in the last 5 to 10 years.
Let's look in the future, the next few months perhaps. You write for Forbes 5 things to know as halftime of the 2023 hurricane season approaches. And you first write that the basin is very active right now. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, as we've seen with Hurricane Lee and others, we've seen out in the Atlantic Basin several storms in various phases. We saw a couple of storms that were sort of at the end of their life cycle, and then we've seen, for example, Lee spin up, and there are a few other sort of clusters of storms that are coming off of the African subcontinent and the Eastern Atlantic that could develop and into named storms. So it's not surprising. We are in the most active part of the hurricane season, again, late August into early September. So it's just an active part of the typical hurricane season, and we're sitting right smack dab in the middle of it.
And you're saying the peak of the season is still days away. Remind us when that is again, and what should people be doing to prepare?
Well, it's around September 10th, 14ish in that time frame. That's when we see, if we look at the last several decades on average, the peak activity in the Atlantic Basin. And just because we peak at the sort of second week of September, what that means is we still have all of September and most of October to go in terms of getting storms. And with the waters as warm as they are, that means that people shouldn't let their guards down. They should continue to monitor these storms, continue to monitor situations if you live anywhere on the coastal U.S. Because again, as we get to the latter part of the hurricane season, we start to see a little bit more activity in the Western Caribbean and perhaps in the Gulf of Mexico as well. Right now in August and early September, the storms tend to come from what we call the main development region, or MDR. That's the region just off the coast of Africa and the Eastern Atlantic. And so that part of the region is quite active right now.
And are you attributing those warmer ocean temperatures to the reason why activity is expected to be above normal?
It is. I think the waters are so warm. Again, even in a typical El Nino year, we have some suppression of activity because of jet stream patterns and wind shear. But the waters are so warm, and we're getting a lot of storm clusters coming off of the African subcontinent or in the Atlantic, that they have plenty of fuel supply to tap into.